Now, the Cuban government has dollarized and restricted the internet for Cubans. On top of all the shortages, now there's the issue of the internet too. If you lack dollars, you're out of luck. If you object, just emigrate. That's what they usually tell protesting youth. I'll show you the new package prices and you'll be shocked, saying, how can a Cuban afford that? Impossible! Hello everyone, how are you? And welcome back to my channel. I'm Anita Mateo, I'm Cuban and I live in Galicia. I'm here learning what the life of a migrant is like, facing life far from my country, far from my family. And I invite you to subscribe, give it a like, and all that stuff. This video will be interesting because I'll discuss a topic I've considered for a while but struggled to express. And we're also going to talk about a new controversy, so to speak, in my country, Cuba. And that's because they've restricted the internet in Cuba. They've completely limited the internet. Internet used to be expensive and hard to access, but recently that's changed. Many Cubans, including my mother, had never used the internet. She got online a few years ago, and now many people have internet access. This also helps me better understand what's really happening in the world. It also happens that we Cubans have spent too much time disconnected from the world. We didn't know what the reality was. Me and all Cubans, the things we knew that happened in the world or what life was like in other countries. It was through movies, through television shows. We didn't have real knowledge of things. Some people supported what was happening in my country, calling it normal. They always tried to sell you the idea that, oh no, but look, in another country you have to pay for everything. If you go to a hospital, they won't take care of you because you have to pay for it. Here, we take care of you for free. They lived off that propaganda, those kinds of things, and we were disconnected from reality. When the internet came to Cuba, life changed. We began seeing more of the world beyond Cuba. Many of us, myself included, began making videos to show the world what life in Cuba was like. And that, of course, made many people open their eyes to the reality, which wasn't the reality they thought it was. As you know, everything's fine, right? A lot of people knew that was wrong, but with the internet, I think it really opened the eyes of many more people. And also the fact that many people could see what was happening in Cuba. That also influenced people to start a fight to end that terrible, corrupt system. All the jobs that people go through, you were able to see them. I also showed you through my videos. It turns out that now they've limited the internet. They want to control information. They want to control, maybe they want to get more dollars from influencers. The government wants more people abroad to send recharges in dollars so they can keep getting richer. Strategy behind this, I think there's a strategy, and well, we're going to talk about that topic and also about how I feel really disconnected from my country. It's like the more I get involved here in Spain and try to fit in, the more disconnected I feel from Cuba, and I think that's something really sad. I don't want this to happen to me, but I want to discuss it with you. So, let's begin. Is summer approaching in Galicia? So later people can't say it only rains in Galicia. It's really nice here in the summer, honestly. They would hate me, or rather they will hate me for giving Galicia so much publicity, because that's good, because I love Galicia, I adore it, but, well, I also make a lot of new people come here. I won't share my opinion since these are very controversial. You tell me how you feel. I always choose for people to come, to integrate, to work, and for everything to get better. Always do things to help, to improve, so that we have a good, nice, and peaceful society. Because honestly, you can really feel the peace here. And well, this year I feel a bit disconnected from my roots. Let me think, I'm not sure how to explain this. In my country, the news is constantly bad, not good, and I used to watch too much content about Cuba, too many news stories about Cuba. It was overwhelming because nothing good ever happens. And at the same time, when I'm talking to my family, which I do literally every day, every single day, it's the same topic of conversation. Obviously, I know they need to vent to someone, to share their reality, what they're going through. But it's always very sad. It's always like that. Today we only had 1 hour of electricity. We had to cook with charcoal because there's no power. I can't fix these things because they're in Cuba. As long as they're there, they'll have to deal with it. I mean, they live with that situation, and for me, it's very frustrating. I try to help as much as possible, but some things are beyond my control. And sometimes, this year I decided, not to watch any more news about Cuba, not to be so involved in the things that are happening, because it's just too much emotional overload, you know? It's just too much emotional overload every time you want to know something about your country. It's only bad things. And I feel like sometimes just disconnecting a little from what's happening gives me some relief. Because when I get too involved, I get angry, I get anxious, I feel pain for what's happening in my family. I don't know, sometimes I ignore it. When they mention what's happening, I just respond like, what? Do I give them hope that someday things will get better, or that someday they'll be able to be here and won't have to go through those things anymore? The truth is, getting news from Cuba really overwhelms me. Another thing that has made me disconnect a lot is also the difference. The difference between the life I had in Cuba and the life I have here. Here I feel happy, fulfilled, and like I'm achieving my dreams. I also remember my life in Cuba, and I only remember anxiety, headaches, struggling. I was especially happy during my university years. But the past few years after the pandemic were honestly horrible. I feel the differences between my two lives before and after have created a block for me. It's like I don't want to remember the part from before. I want to focus on the present, on thriving here. Because every day I feel much more integrated, and I feel like sometimes I want to forget what happened before Cuba. You know, from all those times I struggled, from all of that. And it's like your mind just disconnects. Another thing, honestly, that I feel is guilt. Sometimes I feel guilty. We immigrants with struggling family in Cuba often feel guilty. Sometimes I honestly feel guilty for enjoying a good meal, especially meat, because I know they can't have electricity or not have to wait in lines. Sometimes I'm experiencing those things or taking a nice trip, having a good time, and I always get a feeling of guilt. It's inevitable. Yeah, my family might see those stories, and I think that I'm so happy for her. She's having fun, yeah, but they're not enjoying themselves. And that guilt will always be with me. I can't separate from it. The guilt will always be there. For example, yesterday I went out and had a really delicious meal, beef, ribeye steak. In Cuba, you can't eat that. My family and I didn't even know what a ribeye steak was. That quality of meat is delicious, and I feel guilty. I don't post food pictures or similar things because I honestly feel guilty about having a good time. And they're not over there. And another thing that happens to me is that I feel tired. Tired of wondering if that's ever gonna get better. I'm feeling like it won't. That it's not gonna get better. Sometimes I feel like no matter how much people post stories or reels on social media calling for change or whatever, I feel like nothing will happen. Sometimes it seems those stories last 24 hours, then disappear. And in the end, Cuba is still gonna be in a bad place. Sometimes I completely lose hope for real change in my country. Let's discuss the internet issue, which is causing a stir nationwide. University students in particular have surprised me with their level of involvement. So to speak, another revolution. But sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I lose hope that no matter what happens, there won't be any change. Because I've already seen so many things happen, and even with all of that really intense things, nothing changes. Sometimes I just can't take it anymore. And all these factors make me feel pretty emotionally disconnected from my country. Look, I love my roots, my music, my food, I love my people, but sometimes I feel like I disconnect. I'm not sure how to explain it. Does this happen to you? Tell me in the comments. If you also sometimes dissociate and disconnect a bit from that because it makes you feel bad, well, let's talk about this internet thing. One day I wake up and my mom says to me, "Did you see the new measures they see?" And she starts to explain to me that now they've limited the internet. You can only recharge. In Cuba, it works differently than here, right? Here, I pay for my monthly plan and I have unlimited data. In Cuba, you buy data in small amounts like 5 gigabytes for 500 pesos. But they run out fast. It's expensive for a Cuban salary. I mean, this is a Cuban salary. This is the cost of the most expensive package, and it doesn't even offer many gigabytes. It only lasts a week, which feels fast for content creators like us who need to upload videos. It goes so fast. I used to buy packages weekly, but now you just buy as needed. You can't top up weekly when you run out. You can only top up once. Once a month with 350 Cuban pesos, this amount of gigabytes, you don't have a choice. More measures from the regime to limit Cubans. We can't have free internet anymore. I say we because I'm Cuban, and if I go to Cuba, I couldn't recharge either. Even though my Cuban line has already expired, my line expired, I never recharged it again. These measures significantly impacted the population. Obviously, especially young people at universities are protesting. They are showing their discontent. At the university, they encouraged us to use ICTs, or information and communication technologies. You know all this, and you can't do your thesis or research without good internet access. These measures began on May 30th, 2025. In Cuba, there's just one telecom company, Etexa, the Cuban telecommunications company. In Spain, you have options like Vodafone, Orange, and I use Yoigo. It clearly belongs to the government. All top-ups and funds go to them, and they've always handled top-ups from abroad. Your family sends dollars from abroad to top up your phone, but the government collects those dollars. They are the ones getting rich. I mean, I imagine that telecommunications company in Cuba must be extremely wealthy because of all the dollars and foreign currency it collects. There are a lot more small dogs on this path now. I love it here where I live. I feel like it's a super pet-friendly place, and everyone has dogs, and people walk their dogs around here. And people with dogs are always really nice people. I love it. Here come two more, and Phoebe here kind of wants to play with them, but she doesn't leave my side. Well, here is Creteli Space. Today we are in La Coruña. It's a new day. I was talking a bit about how lately I feel like I don't really want to go back to Cuba. I don't know if you feel the same way. Sometimes I disconnect because too many bad things happen. And I only talk to my family about them, and I find out what's going on through what I talk about with them. But I try not to watch so much news. How are you handling all of this?
For example, T, since the only time I went to Cuba, well, you went to Cuba more times than I did. You went like 3 times. Maybe it was 2.
I went once, and that was enough to decide I wouldn't return. It hurt me, but I already made a video about that and wouldn't want to go back. Never say never, but with the situation worsening daily, it's unlikely. I never want to return to Cuba. I'd rather visit other countries than my own. And what about the disconnection? What was happening to me, which I was telling you about, is that instead of disconnecting, as time goes by, the days, the things, I'm beginning to resent my country's system more, but I can't explain why. Every time I talk to my mother, we're without electricity. I can't find food. I don't have water. I don't have internet. With current internet prices, I just feel angrier and more helpless. I can't solve all the problems as I'd like. I can't do anything and just get increasingly angry at the system. A lot, but I just can't disconnect from everything. I feel like I won't be able to until I get my mother out of Cuba. I'm not going to say, I meant to say that she didn't want to tell me, that she didn't want to tell me, that she didn't want it, that she wanted to tell me. I arrived in 2017, Firta Nurios Ibanez.
Firta Ibanez in the Inespa. Shoutouts. Scrim shoutouts. Which one's Vega? Magos? And just with 350 pesos one time, and the next packages you want to add are in foreign dollars, right? Yeah, can't you top up in Cuban pesos anymore? What do you think about these measures now?
I think it's unbelievable, the sad reality that you see in Cuba. Sometimes I say Cuba isn't just a country, it's a system of emotions. One day, someone, no one knows who, decides the internet will cost 300 pesos and that's the new rule just because they want to. Hey, tomorrow we're going to sell chicken this way and you have to buy chicken this way. So it's always a radical change and nobody knows who's making it, but it affects everyone too much. Not only those who live inside, but also those of us outside who can't do anything. Hey, awesome. It's unbelievable. With what salary and with what money are people supposed to support themselves to pay for a lousy internet that on top of that is terrible and really bad?
It's slow. And on top of that, you know that if you top up the money, it goes to the government, right? It bothers me that when I add a top up, that money just makes the government richer. And in the end, you're not helping. You're helping, but you're not really helping.
But in the end, if you have family in Cuba, you're always stuck with that problem. You're going to help the government, but you're not going to stop helping your family either, because by helping your family, you're helping the government. Otherwise, your family has no other way to get internet since there are no other options.
Well, these new internet measures deepen the dollarization of telecommunication services. Basically, they want to collect more dollars and keep getting richer, as I mentioned before, favoring people who receive remittances and foreign currency from abroad. If you have family, if you're a Cuban and you don't have a relative abroad, you're out of luck, screwed. You? To survive in Cuba, pretty much nowadays, you have to have a relative abroad who sends you money every month.
People assume that just because my family is abroad and I left the country, well, you have enough money to keep sending it or supporting that government. No, because people here also have to pay for themselves. It's true we live better than in Cuba, or that Cubans live better than anyone else, but people still don't have salaries. It's like, didn't you hear a story that said, no, my dad sends me money from the United States, but not my dad. They increased his salary so he could send me more money for the internet. It's something.
They rely on Cubans abroad. The Cuban government survives thanks to them as long as this system continues. The day they stop and people no longer send top-ups, no longer send money, that day, I don't know, maybe something will happen. people will keep sending because they won't leave their families.
That's what I think too.
Here I'm reading from the source CyberCuba that to access larger data volumes, users have to resort to plans in United States dollars. For example, a 4 gigabyte package costs 10 United States dollar, which must be the 3001, right? And a 16 gigabyte, 135 United States dollar. Oh my god.
Oh my god, that doesn't even cost that much here, not even the internet you pay for a whole month, which is unlimited. For example, me, since I'm with Lowe's company,
How much do you pay per month for unlimited internet?
28 euros a month for a line and fiber internet.
Unlimited internet?
Unlimited internet. I never managed to use it all up. And this is a $35 data plan that's going to run out in a week. No, it doesn't make any sense at all. There's no explanation, nothing. I think it's absolutely disrespectful.
And, well, not only have they limited the internet, but they're also censoring a lot of websites and many places where information is shared, which of course is not convenient for them, or they don't like it because those sites don't speak well of the government. And another thing that Cuba does a lot is that every time there are protests or something massive, when people go out into the streets to protest, they cut off the internet completely. So that those of us who are outside don't find out what's happening, and so that people in Cuba also don't find out what's going on. They want to control everything and censor everything, and now with these measures, it's even worse.
Currently, many university students are speaking out for everyone affected by the internet issue. They've protested by skipping school due to a sharp rise in internet prices, since they study online and are holding meetings. I'm not sure if they'll hold a demonstration, but I know they're protesting, as we discussed. It's hard to believe that in the end, people protest more about the internet than about other more basic issues like food, I don't know, health, but they are also affected in that sense by the issue with the internet. Do people really think they'll solve this problem? That's my question. Thank you for watching. Will they lower internet prices? I doubt it. Protesting for your rights is good, but will it solve anything? I don't know. Let the people who watch this video comment, but for me, there won't be a solution. Because if they implemented that system, because that's how it's going to be, this is going to be the price, that they're not going to remove it because that's how they are. They say this is how it's going to be. This is going to be blue, even if it's green. And from now on, it's going to be blue. It's a dictatorship, even if they deny it. How can anyone or any country not call them dictators? And what is it that they do? Starting today, the internet is going to cost, I don't know how many thousands of pesos. It's a dictatorship because you're imposing something that doesn't fit with the idiosyncrasy or the way of life of Cubans. What Cuban can afford to pay for internet like that? How can university students or their parents afford internet access for studying? None, and they know it, but they don't care since they're dictators and impose it, period.
I saw the university student videos too, and honestly, I'm surprised there are any. Young people always seem to be the ones who stand up in the end. The ones who, throughout history, always do. Usually, it's the people from the university who have always moved forward, to fight. It's true that in the end, if we're going to solve the problem, I don't know. But I will keep doing my part talking about the problems in my country. Even though I already told you that I try not to think about those bad things. But either way, we're always going to be affected. Because now, when I talk to my family, in fact, I'm talking to my family a lot less than before. Because the internet connection is terrible too. With the blackouts, there's no internet and they have so little chance to recharge their phones. My mom said, I'm sorry, but we can't talk as much as before. I don't know what to do. Honestly, that really hurt me. Maybe I can't watch your YouTube videos or see your Instagram stories anymore. Of course, because I just can't anymore. I can't keep up with you from your posts since the internet no longer allows it. So, that's really sad, and honestly, it made me really sad. But, well, I have hope that someday everything will change. I don't know. Let's see if the young people, well, those outside and those inside, we have to keep fighting and posting. And, let's see if the situation changes. Talking about these topics puts us at risk of not being able to return to Cuba. I always live with that risk. I don't know if I should take the risk and go back. I don't know. You'll find out. But for now, I don't really feel like going back. And, well, Berta, thank you so much for sharing your opinion with me here.
I have more to say, but there's one thing I want to tell you. The system in Cuba has deeply instilled fear in all Cubans. Let me take my hat off. They've truly instilled fear in all Cubans. Even when we leave, we're afraid we won't be allowed back because of what we might say. Or that something could happen to them. My mother is going through this. What if the video gets out and someone targets me because of it? They did a great job implementing fear, and I have to give them credit. I could say more, but I'll keep it to myself.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to support the channel. We post new videos every Sunday. Share your thoughts on this topic below, whether you're Cuban or not. That's all. Bye with a kiss.